Hello everybody, welcome to my channel, The Real Super Sam. Today is a very exciting top 5 best stories list. It is on another supervillain team, and I hope you enjoy. Number 50, this is my 50th top 5 best stories list on the channel, and for my birthday, how about that? I wanted to make a big video, and this is the second biggest Spider-Man supervillain team. Based off of the Sinister Six, the Sinister Syndicate was formed by Abner Jenkins, aka the Beetle, and it works with Hydro Man, the Rhino, Boomerang, and Speed Demon. The roster for the group has barely changed, though their name has changed over the Marvel Comics history. I like this group a lot because it's always filled with lesser known villains, so there can be more unique stories done with them, since they haven't had that much continuity to write around. And off we go for the top 5 Sinister Syndicate stories. Number 5, The Lethal Foes of Spider-Man. This was a 4-issue miniseries titled The Lethal Foes of Spider-Man, which has the Sinister Syndicate and other rogues guest star too. The story is about the Ringer's wife, Leah Davis, planning revenge on the Beetle for events that appeared in the previous miniseries, with her and the villains Boomerang and Rhino from the Sinister Syndicate and Vulture working together. The Beetle himself has paid off all his debts, and people who know who he really is to keep them quiet. He tries to get other villains to work with him, but they won't, thanks to Leah Davis, again, the previous story, so he flies off into the night for revenge. And this accumulates into a supervillain battle between the Beetle and Leah's team, all going after this nuclear blaster, with each one having their own reasons to get their hands on it. One reason this is number 5 is because there are other characters who have nothing to do with the Syndicate, and two other big ones, Hydro Man and Speed Demon, don't even appear in this miniseries, but does this pick up where the last full Syndicate story left off? It was a fun, really heavy on the action tale, but there are way more characters with the non-Sinister Syndicate members than the likes of just Beetle, Rhino, and Boomerang. Like, of course, right here on screen, Rhino's in it, so is Swarm and Dr. Octopus in The Answer, you get it. Number 4, Hero of the People. This was a 2-issue story in Web Spinner's Tales of Spider-Man, issues 17 and 18. These were the last 2 issues in the series. The Sinister Syndicate are in Belgium, holding the royal family hostage, but for the rebels to take over for freedom there, in actuality though, the Beetle and his team are doing this for the score. Just pretending to help the freedom fighters. During a parade thrown for the villains by the country, Spider-Man arrives and the Syndicate beats him, leading the people of the country to attack Spider-Man and his ally, Silver Sable and the Sandman. There is also a surprise on who's the A-list villain behind the scenes, or it would have been if it wasn't for the comic cover spoiling it, but let's just leave it at that. It is someone who doesn't mind cold-blooded murdering, and this throws the Beetle and Rhino off. Since this takes place before the Beetle joined the hero team Thunderbolts, it was cool to see him enjoying doing good, even if it was for selfish reasons here. This happens before the 2 miniseries, so it also mentions Boomerang wanting to lead the Syndicate. It was a great story with these rogues, which even had a powerful ending. Number 3, The Superior Foes of Spider-Man. This 17-issue series follows the new Sinister Syndicate with some old and new members. As they go through their life, it is written as more of a comedy than anything else, with Boomerang as the main focus this time, not Beetle. This Sinister Syndicate was Boomerang, Speed Demon, the second Beetle, the Shocker, and Overdrive, with the series just following Boomerang trying to make it to the top. The most intense / driving force in the book is the A-tier gang leaders that the Syndicate works with, and eventually they all betray each other for, causing the biggest gang war in comics I've ever read. It sounds insane, but I promise you it is very well written. This whole series is really just about Boomerang manipulating this team he has control of, dealing with the old leader, aka Beetle, who is a Thunderbolt now, and crime lords like Chameleon and Tombstone, especially since the new Beetle is Tombstone's daughter. Since this series is bigger than ever before, there's a lot more one-on-one or one-off tales with the villains, like Shocker having the head of Silvermane, meaning he could be the big guy, Boomerang getting a girlfriend, Beetle 2 growing up with her father being Tombstone, and so on and so forth. Some of the mashups are weird, like Speed Demon and Madame Mask working together, but it's all for entertainment, and they aren't all comics just for entertainment, and the writer does a really great job again. My favorite moments are with Boomerang and when the villains make fun of themselves for being idiots sometimes. I'm so glad this series exists, even happier that Marvel put it into an omnibus format. It really didn't have anything to do with the Superior Spider-Man outside of one issue with Boomerang heading to Supervillain Council with Grizzly and Mirage. And yeah, it's called The Superior Foes of Spider-Man, but I guess it's just because it came out at the same time. Anyway, there is a great mix of Marvel and Spider-Man characters throughout this whole series, and I really highly recommend you read this one. Number 2, the Sinister Syndicate, When Warriors Clash. Of course, this is their first appearance. This two-parter was the villain group in the Amazing Spider-Man issues 280 and 281, attacking Spider-Man in his leather black suit and Silver Sable. Tonight, Spider-Man and Silver Sable thought they were confronting the villain Jack-O-Lantern, but instead they hired the new villain group, the Sinister Syndicate, to take his place. Then the rest of the story goes of the two surviving the night and these 5 supervillains fighting the two. And I gotta say, I love the art here. The black Spidey costume fighting Speed Demon and Hydro Man worked really well. This Speed Demon and Hydro Man's third story, and it was around the time in Marvel where Rhino started being a big Spider-Man villain instead of just being the Hulks. Before this, Rhino just fought Spider-Man one-on-one in his first appearance. And things get even crazier as close by, Flint Marko, going by the codename Sylvester Man, sees the commotion nearby his boarding house and goes to investigate. He decides to help fight the Syndicate as he hates Hydro Man and he is part of the group. It's one of the best Spider-Man action tales, almost pure action scenes and wisecracking with the villains being severely underused ones at the time, all returning, and the Rhino specifically having a change with his new suit accessories, which I really like. Silver Sable hired Spider-Man to come with her to defeat Jack-O-Lantern, but this happens and we see her not fare well against anyone other than Boomerang. There's another part in the story which has Jack-O-Lantern fight Hobgoblin across the city rooftops, but that's tying into the Syndicate is just the fact that Jack-O-Lantern hired the team. In the end, the Rogues get away. Now, they didn't team back up for a while. In fact, none of the members really showed up until their next team up. But I'd say it was a perfect introduction to a new supervillain team in just 2 issues. We got to see so many unique characters and have a ton of action. And number 1, The Deadly Foes of Spider-Man. This was another 4-issue miniseries with the Sinister Syndicate being the stars. Not only is this undoubtedly the greatest Syndicate story, but also one of my favorite supervillain stories of all time. This starts with the Sinister Syndicate reuniting Rhino, Beetle, Boomerang, Hydro Man, and Speed Demon to rob a gold vault. Even with Spider-Man showing up, they succeed. But, well, the Beetle, being the team leader, bringing the group together again to help him pay off all his debts, has to juggle the interest of each member and who to keep around or let go. For example, they couldn't have killed Spidey even though they could have because the Rhino didn't want to, as he's saving his money to get his Rhino hide removed, so the Beetle goes without killing the wall crawler. After their first heist, the Arranger, Kingpin's number 1 guy, takes all their loot for the Kingpin. Beetle tells them the truth that the Kingpin arranged the heist and his early release from jail so that he could get some money. Or all the money, I guess. This doesn't sit well with the group, finding out they were working for Kingpin tonight, especially since Boomerang got captured. Each member, except Hydro Man, unfortunately, gets their own shining moment of villainy. Like when Boomerang's in prison, he has a chance to snitch the team out to get prison time cut off, and he actually doesn't, viewing the Syndicate as more of a family. The Rhino, throughout the miniseries, has only one goal of getting enough money to be able to return back to normal, and the Beetle has to manipulate him to stay, and even on accident, he kills his scientist doctor, helping him remove the Rhino armor, making Rhino angry. There is a lot of betrayals and backstabbings and twists and turns in the whole story and revelations that all accumulate into a battle royale between the Syndicate and Boomerang's new girlfriend, Leah Davis, who is really the new villain named the Ringer, or Ringer 2. She's the original Ringer's wife, who is here for revenge against the Beetle for what he did to Ringer in Spectacular Spider-Man issue 58. Whenever Spider-Man shows up in this series, which is very rarely, it's always a treat as if he just jumps into action as his classic joking self. Though we do get some lead up, like here, he was at the trial of Boomerang and earlier Ringer 2 almost ran Peter Parker over if it wasn't for his Spidey sense, so there is some parts that feel like a regular Spider-Man tale, but it's very, very rare, like 4 pages an issue. The Shocker has a role to play as well. Right now he's in shambles, always shaking, scared about if the Punisher or Scourge of the Underworld will appear next to him and murder him. He gets out of jail with Boomerang and works with Boomerang and Rhino for a bit, but then gets scared while fighting Spider-Man thanks to something done by the Kingpin and runs away. For underrated villains, I'm just so glad that this got a grade A story to show them all off, and it was interesting to see them all have personal goals in the finale where they fight each other, like Rhino versus Hydro Man. That's kind of cool. And there is a way bigger point to this story. It was all manipulated by the Kingpin behind the scenes to get a computer disk on all the undercover cop operations in the city. Rhino also gets his armor off and goes to a normal life, at least for a few months. And those were the top 5 Sinister Syndicate stories. Surprisingly, there are only Sinister Syndicate stories out there. Like, these are it. The others are all small variations or flashbacks. I say the top 3 stories in this video are must reads for a fan. This group needs to be in a cartoon. They're going to be so funny and interesting, a little more than the Sinister Six in some cases. I would say the least fleshed out member of the group in these stories was Hydro Man, which is a shame. I could have seen this group hit the big time if they appeared in Spider-Man Taz at some point. Maybe if that show got all the way up to a season 7. Okay, with that said, thank you for watching the 50th top 5 stories list on my channel. It has been a great 23rd birthday, and I am so happy I could share and talk about the Deadly Foes of Spider-Man series. Alright, thank you, and have a great day.